Welcome to the Dana Grant Show, where heart-centered stories, authentic connections, real talk, and real action come together. I'm your host, Dana Grant, and I believe in the boundless potential within each of us. Join me as we dive into transformative conversations that not only inspire growth, but compassion with a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Let's embark on this journey together, unlocking all the power within and creating a life of purpose and fulfillment. This is the Dana Grant Show, where your story matters and your voice is heard, and I cannot wait to dive in. Welcome back to the Dana Grant Show, where we are focused on heart-centered professionals, people that expand in their business and life. And I am so thrilled to welcome and introduce you to one of my favorite people, Dr. Remina Panjwani. I call her Dr. Remina. She is her story. I'm going to let it unfold because her story is remarkable. We've been chit-chatting because I love her so much. And for any of you that know that an event's coming up in my local town, she is going to be one of the keynotes there. You're going to want to come. You're just going to want to be there because she is as remarkable as you're going to see in this next hour. Welcome, Remina. I'm so glad, Dr. Remina, that you're here.
Thank you so much for that warm welcome. And I adore you so much. And the universe has aligned us together for a reason. So I'm so honored to be here and to be a part of your event coming up in 2025. Thank you.
The fact that you said yes, I think, I want to say March, the dates change from February, but we'll get those dates out there for anyone that's interested. Send us like a message and we'll make sure we get that to you. So, I know you've got a big story. You've got military, you've got medicine. I know that you're in the hospital. You look like you're in a closet right now because you're working right now. But I love the fact, what led you to wanting to focus on women's health and approach it not only holistically, but even at your events? I know you play sound bowls. Everything has shifted and is expanding. And what not just promoted that, what seed was planted where you knew that this was a path that you needed to take?
I'm a firm believer of when the universe has something to show you, it'll keep showing you until you learn the lesson. And I am a little bit older and wiser, so I can look back at all of the experiences that the universe showed me. And the key lesson is there's going to be challenges, there's going to be experiences that may question your worth, especially as a woman. And despite all the struggles and hardships, it built me into who I am. So I can be the strong, confident, yet compassionate person. And what drives me is I'm tired of society, number one, and also in medicine, especially for women. It's constantly conventional medicine, which, yes, it's needed. It's needed to put the bandage when you're having a heart attack, right? But it's mostly revolved around men's health. It's mostly revolved around just bandage approach and standard treatment. And it drives me nuts because we're more than just a body of organs, especially women. Women these days, it's getting better, but you get gaslit. You get gaslit, and it's because of the lack of knowledge in conventional medicine and how to treat it. Now,
And as women, we don't question authority when a doctor is telling us, and being married to one for many, many years, I took that as authority. I didn't question. Who am I to question that learned knowledge? And the fact that you were trained in Western medicine and this is still what you do, but your focus and your heart is devoted to functional medicine, you're saving lives. Your information out there, you are on a mission. Tell me about that.
Yes, that is exactly. I like to bridge even my past, my mission in the military, right? My mission in medicine, my mission in bridging Eastern and Western medicine. And that is exactly, you nailed it. It's my mission because
It's
especially
a soul
women,
mission for you. It's not
yes,
just a mind mission. Your mind has got all the medicine, but your soul is in the driver's seat. You know what you need to do. You know what it is you're creating. And I've had enough conversations with you and time, such valuable, beautiful time spent with you, that I can see it unfolding, and I'm watching you go, and I'm like, everyone needs to be part of this. Everyone needs to be part of this energy, of this change, because it's needed, it's wanted, but people don't know how to find it.
Exactly. They don't know because every time they go to the person they know in conventional medicine, they're shut down. For instance, let's look at the women hormones, right? In conventional medicine, if you're perimenopause or menopause, right? So perimenopause, we now are slowly becoming aware and accepting that yes, women go through shifts monthly from the time of a young age. We have periods, we have monthly periods, we go shifts, but you also shift at least 10 years before menopause starts, that perimenopause, you start feeling a shift in your body. And then when you're menopausal, you still have shifts. So what happens in conventional versus what I do? You go to your conventional medicine doctor. Well, it's just a part of aging. Just deal with it. Well,
Okay,
that's
when
easy
I
for
went through
you to
menopause,
say.
they told me just to deal with it. And I mean, I literally hit a wall, slid down it, and stayed there. I mean, it was traumatic. I
It is.
and that's 14 years ago. I'm post-menopausal, 14 years. I took nothing. I just dealt with it.
Oh my goodness. And see, your life would have been so much more fulfilling through that time if you knew, if you just knew. And that's exactly where there's a gap. Women need to know. So, what does that mean, right?
Yeah, what does
Yes.
that mean?
Yeah, exactly. Well, say when you come to the functional world, there's so much you could do. There's data out there. Now, I want to caution because there is this big women's health initiative. There's a big study that came out and put a bad rep on hormone replacement. But here's the big flaw in that. This is where this
Mm.
misinformation comes from. They used, they didn't use bioidentical hormones, right? They used horse urine. They used horse urine, which is what was given for women to give them synthetic hormone. Now, that's different. Obviously, that's going to
Wow.
be rejected and cause issues. That study has now been reversed, it's been retracted, but still, that trauma lives in people's heads. If I take hormone replacement, that's all I have, number one, and that's probably going to give me cancer. No, that is not true. There's so much you could do because holistically, there's so much your body's capable of, right? And getting to root cause is exactly how you approach these women, us. Every single woman is unique. So, what does that mean, right? Well, we know that our body needs nutrients, right? It needs the right environment, it needs the right mind, body, spirit. Everything for women is unique and complicated. So, you need to honor those. You need to honor everything, not
How
just say,
difficult is that conversation when you have women come in, not to when you have women come in and they're discussing this in the Western medicine world, and you're introducing a new alternative. How difficult is it for them to make that shift? And is it adaptable? Do they say, I am all in, I've been waiting for this, or you know what, just give me this, this is tried and true, I don't trust that? What would you say the percentage is?
honestly, people are becoming almost like a spiritual shift, right? People
Mm.
are awakening because they know it's being discussed now. Women are at the forefront, and there's more people talking about this. And I think those that are ready to listen, they're ready to hear and accept what the other options are. So people, the women that come to me, they're actually not resistant. They want a different route because the conventional route has failed them. They're looking for this route. And so by the time they come to me and I see them, they're like, oh my gosh, Dr. Remina, I need this. I need you. What
Yeah.
can you do? And I work with them. It's okay, do you want to work on getting to root cause and all these additional tools, or do you want to get advanced testing so we could see where in your biochemical pathway we need to give you support? Is it a deficiency in vitamins? Is it your, say, your methylation pathway? And we can break this down even more so I can make it into simple terms. Is it the stress that you're living and that's pulling away from all the pathways that's your group?
Positive. You don't look at one area of their life. You're looking
Mhm.
at the stress, your environment, your
Yes,
medications, your food, your exercise, your relationships.
yes,
This is big. There's no other.
yes.
It's so big I couldn't even think of articulate the word. It's big. It's
Yes.
it's so needed. And we know that women, autoimmune is the number one. And I believe inflammation in the body is what you're discussing, and the circulating of looking at someone's life. What would you say for someone who came in with an autoimmune? They said, I've got autoimmune, and I'm sure you see it every day.
Mhm. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
What is your approach to them? Is it the same approach as hormone? I know you focus on a lot of hormones because, well, let's face it, as women, I call us, we're walking hormones. This is what we are. Whatever level and state, I have 3 daughters. I can say, I know exactly what hormones phase you're in each set of the month. I mean, and that, I mean that in the best sense, that, this is something that we radiate with because it's such a gift to have it. So what would you say about the shifting back to the autoimmune?
Hmm.
Someone,
Oh, yes, a lot of even younger people, men
yes.
too. And I'll share a success story in this, two success stories. So, recently, and it all came back to, yes, what is causing the inflammation? Inflammation, in general, it's not just what it's caused by a trigger. And a lot of times, especially in American life, you combine the ultra processed foods, and
Mm,
especially, I want to especially bring forward the topic of gluten.
mm,
Because if you notice when you travel to other countries, like say Italy, right? People are walking, they have a low stress lifestyle, they have the community, right? They also don't eat highly processed foods. Like if you eat wheat there, you're probably going to be fine. However, you come back to the States and you eat pasta, if you eat pizza or processed bread, the issue with the gluten is not the same. And what happens is a lot of these inflammatory responses, when you come to the conventional world, you're probably already inflamed and they're not looking at all these other stressors and triggers. They're just going to say, you need a steroid or you need these high hitting medicines that's going to cause problems. Functional medicine gives you a whole different tool set. Well, let's see, what is inflammation? Well, yes, what are you eating? And because with the gluten, your body eventually, if you're having an intolerance, it's not necessarily just the gluten. It could be any of the pieces of that wheat that's processed, and your body is responding, reacting to it because it's foreign. And what happens is it sets off this cascade of inflammation. It drives in your soldiers to protect your body because it thinks that there's a foreign invader, and then
right.
you pass more inflammation. Now what else do? You add in the lifestyle, right? If you're not sleeping right, if you have additional stress, if you have toxic relationships and you're working constantly and stressed, well, your mind too, it's not resting. Your mind needs to shut down your body and your spirit. So you see, if you're inflamed, it's not just one thing. And so that's why you're getting to root cause and the trigger. It's a puzzle. What is it for you? Everyone is different. What is that puzzle we need to work on? So just like a small success story I love to share. So I had two patients. I'll say the first one, I really want to bring him forward because men, it takes a certain masculine, healthy man to come forward and admit, hey, I need help, right? And so this amazing soul, he had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. What is that?
Mm.
Well, that is just inflammation and it settles in your thyroid. So you start having certain symptoms, right? And that's what I like to say, symptoms, because you don't have a diagnosis on that. It's just symptoms, what's masking it. Well, long story short, it turned out it was the gluten for him. He did not need the high hitting steroids to be
Mm.
on. He was living a vibrant, more energetic life. And it was great because I mean he's highly educated. He's doing great. He needs to be on his game. And then he can be present in other personal areas of his life. He could be a fulfilling husband and a father, right? Um,
Makes me wonder how many of us are not totally on our game, and we've adapted and we've
yes.
tolerated it, and we struggle with it, but we don't believe there's an answer. Or we've gone to the doctors over and over again. Perhaps it's too expensive. We don't get the answers. We get medicine and we don't want to take it. There's so much resistance around that. I see this open flow of just being heard by a physician in, and knowing the Western and the Eastern coming together with this unique approach. How do you find the time to do this with each person?
Well, I keep it very small so I can give the quality. And I like to work with people, and I say work with people because it's a team effort with people who are ready.
Yeah.
And you can't help someone who's not aware, right? Just like you said, if you're just used to it, you
Yeah.
just think, for instance, fatigue is a big one, right? And
Yeah.
especially as women, there's so many factors that causes us to be fatigued. And when you're off balance, right? You're off, you finally reach your threshold. Well, we're just used, we don't know. This is just the way life is. No, it's not. There's more you could do. You don't have to be tired forever. And that is not the new normal. There's feeling vibrant again. And once people feel that hope, that in itself is driving to me. So I make time. I make time because when you sit with me on that first call, I spend 60 to 90 minutes. And so I'm very selective in people
That's
because
almost unheard of. When you
yeah.
and what I hear the most is people's frustration is going into the doctor. I'll say, go get a checkup, go get blood work, because as a coach, I need to look at all areas of their life why they're not thriving. And
Mhm.
he didn't hear me. He walked in, he walked out, and it was a PA or a nurse, and there was no one to hear me. And so I love the fact that you take the time to listen. I think that 90% of the world needs they're not being heard. And just by being heard lowers blood pressure, lowers everything. And I wrote this down as I was waiting for you. And I said, what is the one thing? And I know this is pretty speculative, it's kind of broad, but what is the one thing that we should be focusing on right now if we can identify that we're just not feeling great and we want to feel better? What would be the first step that people can do?
That's a good question. I say it's simple as listen to yourself. If you know your body is telling you something, if your body is saying it's throwing up flags, it's saying, listen, something needs to change. I
Mhm.
say listen, because a lot of times that's where people shut it down and say, no, there's nothing wrong. It's in my head. It's fine. It's just the way it is.
I don't
Listen.
want to complain, don't want to give it any energy. I'm going
Yes.
to cut it off. I'm going to ignore it. Like, yeah. So,
Because like you said, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna get ignored. I'm just gonna be told everything is normal, right? And I say that in
and then I'm going to
quotation.
get a really big bill and I'm going to be resentful and then the cycle begins. And yeah, it's a big loop.
So listen and know what you're looking for. Know that there's another route. Functional medicine may be it for you. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but there
Mhm.
is a way. There's a way. And it all goes with starting with listening. Your body's saying something's not right. Well, let's go find an answer. There's something out there for you.
I love that. Can people work with you online, or do you just work so they can find you online and work with you?
Yes,
I
absolutely.
love that even more. I love that even
It's
more.
truly concierge, and I don't want to make it difficult for anyone. And I find people as busy as they are, the virtual approach is just fitting for many people. So I love to offer that.
Yeah. Even if you're in the hospital closet room, you're still completely present. I I love your energy. I
Well, the
love
funny thing is, like, I should turn around the camera and show you. This is actually one of the CPR training rooms.
I love it. I love
But yes, like I will always find time, and typically it'll be in an office
it.
in my office. But yes, if not, then I will definitely find a training room to find time to talk to you.
I love the fact that you don't stay in this perfection, this paralysis perfection. I've got to have it just like this in order. You just show up. I've always loved that about you, that you're always looking at resources and thinking outside the box. And I've been in enough situations with you to know how you circulate and process and restructure. And I love it. And I can only imagine how beneficial people working with you is.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I knew when I started my podcast show, I really wanted to have you on and introduce not only your concept, but your energy and what is available to people that they don't know is available. It's like look what's available to you. You can make a different choice.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I want to add in too is what is different, and at first, and I'll be honest, at first I'm like, should I do this? This is so different. But then I said, yes, I need to do this because it's not being done. And what is this that I speak of? Yes, it's functional medicine, it's Eastern and Western, but
Yeah.
it's also adding in different modalities, right? Well,
Yeah.
I I truly believe that for the most part, we live in a very high stress, high alert society. And so we need to regulate our nervous systems. And as women, especially, that ties into our hormones, right? So if you're always like that stress hormone, cortisol, if that stress hormone is up, and I briefly mentioned that there's different triggers of stress, right? Not just in your mind, but the way you live, the way you sleep, and just your relationships, everything, what you eat, everything can be a stress. And so if your body is tipped up that way, there are certain modalities that you can do. Yes, lifestyle changes. Of course, if you can eat right, you can exercise, resistance training, you could balance your hormones. But there's another modality too, breath work, right? Breath work is one, and meditation. But then I thought, well, sometimes, and I'm guilty of my monkey mind running around too, right? Sometimes it's hard to turn it off. And so I thought, well, why don't I blend science and spirituality? Sound bowls, sound healing has been around for, oh God, for such long times in many cultures. And science shows, actually, one of my friends, who I briefly mentioned, she
Yeah.
worked on a study who looked at the brainwaves, who studied the brainwaves. And so scientifically, if
Mm.
you look at an anxious brain and a very calm brain, there's a difference. The brainwaves are different. And it shows up in how you show up, not only internally in your biochemistry, but then how you show up in the world and how you may not be present or you will. And so what they found is a lot of times when you have the sound bowl waves, the frequencies adjust your brain waves into the theta waves. And this has been studied, the theta waves, the flow state, the Zen state. So
Mm.
you not only are able to slow down your nervous system in your brain, but your body is also made of water, right? It's also water. And so the sound waves also break those blockages out and resets your nervous system. How does that show up? Well, you're not always in anxious fight or flight. Your hormones can be balanced too. And it ties in, it cascades down the right path. Isn't that amazing? So you give them a modality, you
Yeah.
personalize it through science too, but personalize it to the unique person. So I'm owning it. This is what people need.
Yeah. You know what's so interesting is we're in this huge paradigm shift right now of even in schools introducing yoga,
Yes.
life coaching, breath work. It should start at a young age and normalize it. I do you feel that the most resistance is because it's not been normalized, that it's been coined as alternative and in some cultures like didn't the hippies do that in the 60s and
Yeah.
and how could that possibly work? But I find that the simplest things can be the most resistant. I coined keep it simple, keep it
Yes.
simple. But I often go back to Betty Crocker that did the cake when it was originally, I think 1930s or 40s when it was introduced, it was just add water. It bombed. Nobody bought it because it was too simple. But when they did add 3 eggs, a third a cup of oil and a half a cup of water, but boom, oh, well, now I feel like I'm doing something. So how can you, and do you find that by keeping it simple and introducing something like, hey, this is your power, your choice, you can do this. You don't need a script. You don't need anything more complicated than just to make some life changes. Do people get their head around that and think, I can actually be empowered to do this? Or wait a minute, I've never even considered myself as an authority and I can't do this. Fix me, fix me. Where do you find that percentage?
Yeah. There's a mixture. But here's the
Yeah,
thing. If you have to be willing to learn something new or retrain your mind. So neuroplasticity, for instance, right? So
yeah,
that's where I bring it back to. If people are hesitant, that's where I bring in the best of science. Like
yeah.
neuroplasticity shows you can rewire your brain and you could choose to make it difficult or you could have it low hanging fruit. And it starts simple with breath work. And so when I break it down simply in little pieces, because small steps, it eventually
Mhm,
becomes a big change, a lifestyle change. So those
mhm,
people, especially busy professionals, right? I
mhm,
break it down depending, because remember, I'm sitting down and I'm listening to what they do, what time they wake up, what are their habits
mhm,
too, right? So for someone who's busy, who's a busy mom who has kids, I simply say, well, let's start. You don't have to make it overwhelming. Small changes, you can rewire your entire system, right? Start waking up 5 minutes before your kids wake up, before your alarm goes off. Don't reach
Mhm.
for your phone. What is that? The blue light messes with your circadian rhythm. We know that. Studies show it now. You have to allow your brain and body to reset naturally. So for 5 minutes, do not look at your phone and just lay in bed and breathe. Do the box breathing, just breathe. And I show them what type of breathing to do. Okay, if you mastered that, now take it a step further. Gratitude, journaling. That's another simple way. And then when you're ready, practice it throughout the day, like maybe on your lunch break, maybe go outside in the sun and take a fresh breath of air. So slowly they start incorporating it into their daily lives and they notice a difference. And so when I follow up, they're like, oh my gosh, Dr. Remina, like it's just these small changes. I am not blowing up on my kids. I'm not blowing up at
Mhm.
work. Like, and my body feels better. I don't have brain fog, just these simple changes. And then we start adding more, right? Like then they're like, okay, well, I'm ready to get moving more. I'm ready to do a little bit more advanced things. So I think it's a lot of it is educating and showing them that it can fit into their schedule.
I love that. What do I know, I don't know if this is too generic or not, but what is the easiest thing for people to implement? And what is the most resistant thing that they can't get their head around that they tend to struggle with the most?
I think food,
Ah,
because I think food is probably the hardest to have people, because especially, so say I walk someone through the elimination diet, right? So if I have someone who's really inflamed, have gut issues, I like to start with eliminating the potential triggers, the top three triggers: gluten, dairy, eggs, right? And
mhm,
so that's where we negotiate. Like, okay, Dr. Amin, I really think it's gluten. I'm not ready to give up dairy. I just love me
mhm,
some cheese and milk. So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Let's just do it because this is your body. This is a team effort. Let's start small and let's see how it goes. And so that tends to be more of an issue, is the food and giving up
mhm.
things. And I'm not saying don't eat, right? Because you're eating real food. You're eating real high quality food. You're just removing
Ah,
the potential triggers.
yeah,
The easiest thing I would say is most people are already doing some sort of movement.
right.
So tweaking that, like for instance, if you're menopausal or perimenopausal, we know that if you implement resistance training,
Right.
that even 15 minutes, it doesn't have to be intense. You don't have to go to the gym. Just do even bands. If you do bands, something simple as that. And if I just give them that piece of advice to build their muscle, because muscle is protective for your bones, it's anti-inflammatory, it helps your hormones. I mean, it's just so good. It's good for body composition, right? It helps you as you age from preventing to fall, right? These are all things that help you thrive. I know, right? Help
Those
you
are
thrive.
right. Yeah, I'm moving my hips right now. I'm moving. I'm moving. But
I love it.
yeah, I love this information. I'm trying to think of anything that people need to know that I haven't asked because I think this is such valuable information that everybody should be hearing this. I just think that this is the way of the future. This
Yes.
is, that we must lean in and take accountability and ownership, taking ownership of our body. And I love the fact that you said it's a partnership. We're working together to make this, and they're being heard, which is, I think, half the battle. So many people do not feel heard in the world. I did write this question down, which is, perhaps what are some common like root causes that you've uncovered in traditional medicine that is often overlooked?
Mm. Oh man, the big hitters that everyone struggles with is gut issues, and
Yeah.
anxiety, depression. I feel like those two are the big hitters. And a lot of people, they may not know if they're high functioning anxiety depressed people, because if you're high functioning, you're going to present differently.
Yeah.
Um, and then same thing as gut. So when they present to the hospital, right, you rule out all the life-threatening issues. Say if it's a gut issue, right? Sometimes they have this just unrelenting pain, this gut pain, but then every single testing they've done, they've been scoped top to
Mm.
bottom and everything is clean. They've been throwing medications.
Right.
Well, it goes back to lifestyle, right? What are you eating? Is it a trigger? How's your stress? How's your sleep? Are you moving enough? Are you doing the right type of movement? How's your mind? How is everything else, right? So I feel like those are overlooked. And again, because we're in this insurance-based mainstream business. I call it a business because it's not, that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
CEOs of hospitals, hospital companies, insurance companies, big pharma, they're the ones making money.
And
Now,
how often do you hear in the emergency room, well, go do XYZ, and they're like, my insurance doesn't pay for that. Give me a
exactly,
bill, they'll pay for this, but they won't pay for that. Do
exactly.
you see that changing in the future, or do you?
Do. I do. So I just had a conversation with this company called Impact, and so they're not mainstream insurance. They're their own separate company, and they do reasonable pricing, and they let you use your money with their policy to do wellness things like get a gym membership, go get
Wow.
non-traditional therapy, to get like Reiki. Like that's the movement, and people want to feel better and truly have prevention. They want to have the opportunity to choose which doctor will listen to them and get to root cause, because
Mm.
that old system we already know is not working, right?
Yeah. No.
It,
Yeah.
this is where, like, sometimes, and the thing is, I can't blame the doctors. The problem is we've lost our power. We're too divided. And we're told, like, if you spend too much time, well, guess what? You're going to be pulled in one direction. You're going to be
Yeah.
judged and watched and gaslit from your admin, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I see is a big gap there. And then again, going back to anxiety, depression, right? They come in with chest pain. Um, and it's like everything is clean. They see a cardiologist. Well, you're probably just anxious here. Just take a Xanax. Well,
Mm.
no. What's going on? Give you tools. If the tools that you don't even know, there's more than medicine. What are the tools? Non-traditional therapy, trauma therapy. Maybe there's unresolved trauma, right? Maybe it's just an imbalance of your neurotransmitters in your body or
Right.
your hormones, right? Like
Yeah.
there's just so much you could do, and it's being missed in the conventional world, you know?
Yeah. I love that, which just made me think about ADHD was really never on my radar until this year. If I
Mm.
have one person that has ADHD, I have heard that one out of one. I mean, everyone has ADHD. What and how do you think? Do you think that's a medical diagnosis, or do you think that's a stress diagnosis?
Mm. I think it's multifactorial
Yeah.
because there's so Harvard, um, big Ivy League institution. I am happy that they're actually working with this Dr. Palmer. He blends in. So he's a psychiatrist, but he's showing the research that shows that all of these lifestyle holistic modalities are making an impact. And so it's not just always medicine, right? And so
Yeah.
where I'm getting at is we have the gut brain axis, right? So if your gut is inflamed, your brain is inflamed, everything else, you live an inflammatory lifestyle, it's going to show up as mood disorders, maybe ADHD. So what they did is they looked at different diagnoses. So be it ADHD, be it like bipolar, be it depression, right? So you
Right.
look at it. And I like to bring in the ketogenic diet because originally it was there for seizure disorders, epilepsy, right? But what they found is they did all these lifestyle implementations on these patients, and they found, I want to say it was like a 90% success rate um, when they corrected their sleep. They took out highly processed foods, they cleaned up their lifestyle, and they were able to function. Their brain wasn't as inflamed. Um, and I think more people, and fortunately, a lot, I wouldn't say many doctors, but there are a few doctors that are moving the needle forward by bringing these type of research studies, these real case scenarios to big
Right.
Ivy League institutions that are big science backed. So I think when you bring it forward, like you see the evidence, you see the changes. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's multifactorial. Now, there are genes that expose you to it, like you may have a genetic disorder, but that doesn't mean you're doomed, especially given that study is showing that lifestyle has a big factor. You can control it.
I love that. How can people find you? Do you have like quizzes on the brain, gut health? I mean, tell us more about where they can reach you, how they can work with you, what's coming up for you.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah. reach out to me anytime. You can go to my website. I keep it simple too, www.drremina.com, drremina.com. I post a lot of free things and upcoming events on my Instagram, so that's also Dr. Remina.
You got a
And
podcast show?
yes, I have a podcast
This is your
show,
podcast show. What is that called, and how can they find you there?
the Dr. Remina Panjwani show. A little bit different, but still the same.
Yep. Yep.
And it's on every platform. And I love to do like pop-up like wellness experiences, wellness workshops, always looking for people to team up with too.
Yeah.
So yeah, reach out to work with me. We could set up a discovery call. So it's a free 15-minute discovery call, see if this is what you're looking for, what we could do. Then we move forward for a consult, and yeah, we go from there. And next, let's see. Gosh, there's so much. I'm so grateful. I am working on hopefully coming up with a new concept. And this is something I wanted to tell you too. I just thought
Mm.
about it, but hopefully going to start with, well, there's actually a couple of things. So one is going to be a virtual event. I'm thinking about the date, but we're going to combine science and spirituality, exactly what is needed. And so hopefully that's going to build up
Gonna be
to the
great.
in-person one. We'll talk more for sure, but that's in the brainstorming coming up soon session. And then the other thing is I always wanted to create a truly holistic resort, but you have to go different places. Sometimes you have to go out of the country to find it.
Yeah.
So I teamed up with a couple of gals of mine that are truly amazing. And we found, so it's Fort de Bella Equestrian, and we just did our first mini retreat. I don't know if you saw that, but we're
I
combining
haven't.
nature, this beautiful 10-acre piece of land outside of Dallas Fort Worth, combining
Mm.
nature, healing with the horses, and bringing in meditation. I'm doing the functional medicine stuff. She's going to
Oh,
add on Olympic training too. So we're building this small and hopefully going to build it out to a full wellness resort. So that's
I
coming up.
love that. I mean, I will, in my next retreat, and I'm huge on equestrian therapy and horse therapy, huge.
Yeah.
If anyone, and
You have to come. You have to come
oh,
out.
I'm already there. I'm already there. You're speaking my language. It's total alignment. It's all I can talk about this year is finding a facility that, and actually there was only one in Oregon, but it's been very difficult to find an equestrian therapist. There's one in Sweden where they do actually on the massage tables. She allows horses to come and lay their head while I mean, it is so. I watched the videos, and you can find her on Instagram. I should know her name, but it's the most beautiful experience that you can witness. You can feel the energy radiating off the table, and with
Oh
the
my
horses that circulate and lay their heads down on the person as they're being worked on, the
God.
energy is beyond.
It
Okay,
is.
last question for you. I know
Yeah.
you've got to go. I've got you like hijacked in the closet at the hospital.
Oh no, I love it.
I want to know what feels like love in your life right now. What feels like love for you?
Hmm. You remember that universal lesson I briefly talked about
Yeah.
that keeps showing? It's self-love. It's always self-love
Ah,
and being in your authenticity, owning your worth and your value. Always that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am so glad you don't second guess yourself. I am so glad that you're willing to be bold and audacious and show up and take ownership and leadership in this avenue that really is so transformational and women need so desperately, and men. And we're not
Yeah.
omitting men,
Yeah.
but like I've said, women have been overlooked for a long time in the health
Yeah.
industry. And I think that being heard and listened to and being told, not gaslit, not you're not crazy, you're not imagining it. This is really I mean, and I go back to 14 years ago when I said something's happening and I literally was terrified and just deal with it from a male doctor. And I took that as I never went back and I just dealt with it. And it was life altering. I was on a doctor years ago, her podcast show in Europe. And I said it was like walking into a brick wall, sliding down it. And that's where I stayed for 2 years. I had no idea I had no idea what was going on. The shoulders aching, the brain fog. I just kept trying to push through it. And I felt literally like I was going crazy.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And let me tell you a little secret. I am going to be 40 soon and I'm totally feeling it now. So it just happens. I get it. And we need to talk about it. We need to know there's a solution to get you through it.
Yeah. I can't wait to continue this information. I'm going to have Dr. Remina's information and all her links, and you're going to need to follow her. You're going to need to connect with this incredible. You are one of my favorite humans. I think you already know that. I'm so thrilled that we were finally able to connect
Yes.
with our schedules, and it's like let's just make it happen. And
Yes.
I'm
Oh
just
my
sending you
goodness.
so much love, and thank you for showing up and doing the work and being who you are. I can't tell you what it feels like to be in the presence of someone who creates the space and is so authentic. Like you said, the I can feel your authenticity. You really do walk the walk, and that's why I'm thrilled to have you here today.
Thank
Everyone
you
needs
so
to know you.
much. Thank
Mwah.
you so much. Oh.
Bye for now.